Welcome to Alex and Amy, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today with Gianpaolo Vairo, Damian Sheridan, and Cristiana Carpini from the Scale Show. We're so happy to see you guys here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Would it be appropriate for me to say buongiorno? Would that be the right word? No?
Yeah, buonasera maybe.
Buonasera. Okay.
We're gonna much better.
We're gonna work on our
We have
Italian.
a lot to learn before October, yeah.
We will work on our Italian. So we're excited because you guys asked us to be part of your Scale show in Florence in October, and we could not be more thrilled and more excited about it. And we wanted to have you guys on the show to tell us about the Scale family because you've grown quite a bit. We met Damian, I think, through some clubhouses during COVID and then some podcasts that everybody's been doing, and he's been a big supporter of ours in Europe. But why don't each of you introduce yourselves, and then we can get into the meat of what Scale is all about.
I'll start off, guys, as I've probably known you guys maybe a little bit longer. So I'm Damian Sheridan. You guys will remember that I have the Book Direct Show, founder of the Book Direct Show, which we had in Miami 2 or 3 years ago. And more recently joined forces with my colleague here, Gianpaolo, and we formed the Scale shows, which are a series of events globally now, where we have conferences dedicated to professionals in our industry. So for those who have generally 20 plus units in the short-term rental, vacation rental industry. So I'm an Irishman, lived in the UK for many time, now based largely in Spain. And loving life, trying to keep my head above water with everything we have with Scale, which is fun. But I've got some great colleagues here and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, ladies first, Cristiana.
Right. I'm Cristiana Carpini, Italian, actually really Florence in person, but living between Genoa and Lugano, where actually my office is. Just this year, I took over the Scale Italia show from Gianpaolo.
I'm Gianpaolo, together with Damian Sheridan. We are holding the Scale family and the Scale shows all over, as you said, globally. I'm Italian. I'm based in Barcelona since, I'd say, almost 20 years. And this is our life. I'm dedicating most of my time, day and night, to this project because we are really passionate about education and vacation rental, and Scale finally, because it was really hard at the beginning, is finally taking off. And, we with over nearly 9 shows this year, we're reaching the global presence with conferences in 3 different continents. So we are really happy about the outcome.
Excellent. Well, we are super excited to be over in Italy with all of you and your audience and just get to meet so many new faces. And we just think it's going to be a wonderful experience. But leading up, the last couple of years, I feel like we've heard about the Scale shows from so many more people, and a lot of US-based people have gone over there because they've said it's one of the best conferences they've ever been to. So I'm curious, just get started. What do you think is the essence that makes this show so different from the regular conference?
For us, from day one thing we always felt that was hugely important was that every single piece of content at our show could not be a sales pitch. We did feel like going to many other events that it was really a product update for a lot of large companies, and they went on too long and it was just a bit of a dull experience. So our feeling was, before we even hatched a plan, that it needed to be education which was next level, which for every person that came in the room, they go away with numerous takeaways. And they're not even necessarily thinking about the product that was behind the person on stage. So that, and alongside the fact that it's specifically for professional property managers and an area of networking, they, for me, are the 2 things that from the very beginning we wanted to kind of cultivate. And that's the best feedback we get from attendees. They really, really love the show.
For me, the key differentiation between Scale and the other conferences out there is that since the beginning, since day 0, not day 1, since day 0, we decided to have just professional managers, not, hosts. So this is a way to put under the same roof people with the same mindset, same needs, and same vision. So it's different. Provide content to a very unified and uniform number of people with same interests and same needs, instead of having, possibly more people with completely dishomogeneous and not aligned hosts. They need different kind of education versus, large property management company. They are in a different phase of their history. So for us, for Scale, providing content to them is going to be a totally different thing. So we saw that people coming to these kind of conferences were super happy because they were meeting people with same vision, same needs, same focus, and this was a complete game changer for many of them. Say, wow, I met people that really accelerate my business, that really support where we are and where we are going. So it's really easier to find partners, providers, and partners in business, basically, because many times we heard successful story of people that met each other in one of our conferences, and now they merge or they scale together or they share experiences and they help each other to move forward their own business. This is the key.
That makes a lot of sense. And, thinking about what's happened, with VRMA and some of the stateside conferences that have probably embraced more or tried to embrace more of the STR, the smaller host community. I don't think that anybody has really done that effectively yet. And I think a lot of the problems are kind of what you just were speaking to have a one size fits all conference is very hard. And I think when you have people that are aligned about, the reason that they're there and what the similarities and the challenges that they face, that's where you can actually make great connections and have those conversations outside of the sessions to really, build that network. I'm curious on your side over there, what the atmosphere is like. I mean, is it similar to the States? That I think there's a lot of professional hosts that would rather completely keep the smaller hosts out, but is it kind of contentious between the two sides, or is that just more of a decision you made just specifically for the content of this show and the purpose?
There's so many conferences out there. We know that. Utterly saturated, the amount of conferences. And in the US, you guys have next level amount of conferences.
Too many.
Possibly. We do have a lot in Europe as well. Look, and we're not helping things. But what we try to do with this and the Book Direct show is have niche conferences whereby it's either, for direct booking strategies to learn just that, or in this particular case, it's for those who've got 20 plus properties. As Gianpaolo said, we want to have this kind of arena whereby everybody is ambitious, is growing. That's not to say that we don't have a lot of companies who are a bit smaller to say, hey, why can't we come? We're growing, we're scaling, and that's really tough. We have to say a lot of times, I'm so sorry, but we have to cut it off somewhere, and this is how we cut it off. Our first event was for 50 units plus. We've kind of settled on 20 for most of our events, but it's not easy. But it's based on a lot of market research that we've done with property managers. And they have felt that they just wanted a different level of content, kind of a little bit more advanced without trying to be condescending to hosts or smaller companies. But they're not starting off. They're established. They've been in the industry for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. So they kind of know what they're doing, but perhaps they just want the next step to grow maybe a little bit quicker, or more importantly, as well as the content, to be amongst like-minded people. I think that's the biggest thing that we can offer. As much as we go out of our way to find the best speakers, such as yourselves, and we do spend a ridiculous amount of time on our content, the best feedback we get is from everyone saying, wow, I met some incredible people here. And because it's never going to be a Verma International, it's never going to be 1,500, 2,000 people. It's always going to be, generally in the hundreds. Although that said, I know Cristiana has some huge, ambitious plans for numbers in Florence. Generally, our delegates are about 300 to 500, but it's about a more intimate event where you can meet the same people again. And these are hugely established and professionals in our industry, and we all kind of learn from each other. It's a very collaborative event.
So coming from the US, I think that we take it for granted that every state is still part of the United States. So like our big territory, there's some similarities from state to state. So I would be curious, again, as an outsider coming in, you are doing it in various countries. And I noticed that you added one, I think, in Dubai in the fall. I wouldn't even have imagined that there was an industry in Dubai outside of like hotels. I didn't even think that existed. So how do you decide to go into a market, and what kind of research do you have to do? Because I would think that there are very different ways of operating. And we talked about it kind of offline, like the tone and the tenor and the language, that is used between these countries. Like, how do you decide when a country is the right time to go in? And then what is that boots on the ground like research that you do to start?
There are a lot of discussion going behind the lines before starting a new conference in a new country. The first thing is we need to understand if there are enough professional managers in one country before going there. And for instance, I give you two different examples. So for instance, Germany is a very large market for property management, but we are still hesitant to enter in this market because now we have clear vision of the amount of professional managers there in Germany. But until very few months ago, we didn't have that clear vision on how many managers are in this large market. And this is one of the last big market that is still undiscovered in Europe. Imagine, while Dubai, many property managers from all over Europe were sort of investing some money there. So I'm investing some money there in Dubai. And so we said, oh, well, we need to explore. Dubai is a really promising land now for vacation rental. So we had a good contact there. So we went physically in Dubai over 1 year ago, me and Damian. We spent a week there. We've been part of a local meetup, and most of the property managers we met in Dubai were the smallest we met was 400 units.
Wow.
So this is crazy. So we decided to move forward, say, hey, this is the promised land for vacation rental, and then exploring deeper what is the market, what are the numbers, what are the people involved. We saw that there is huge potential here, and not only Dubai is the Middle East, so the region, so Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, Oman, all this area possibly is the next level of vacation rental because there's no restriction, there's no taxes. So investing money there is quite easy. A lot of people really want to be there because it is a trending market. And possibly for Europeans, especially European property managers, having something there is sort of completing the season. So if it's winter here, they have something there. So it's also a good way to be always on peak season. And considering that people that go to Dubai are high spending guests, is a market that makes sense for most property managers. So we started from European markets. The first show was in Barcelona. Then we had one in Milan, one in Paris, that are established vacation rental market, but still they are suffering now from restriction for regulation. And recently we tried to approach other emerging markets, let's say South Africa, for instance, was a huge bet because it is a crazy market for vacation rental. And once there, we discovered that was really good. So we are trying to bring education into markets like South Africa, for instance. There were no association, no support groups. So having the first vacation rental meetup there was a sort of eye opener for many operators there. So we discovered that many operators there never meet each other since when we bring there the first short-term rental event ever. I say, wow, this is crazy. You're working in the same city for so long and you haven't met one with the other. Say, wow. Damien here, if you want to add something.
Yeah. So, like Dubai is culturally so different to what we're used to here in the UK or Spain or anything like that. So is South Africa. But what kind of drew us to these places is not that we wanted to bring this to the world. It's actually some property management company said, hey, would you think about bringing this to South Africa? And we had Nick Taylor from Knox, the nicest guy in the world, officially, said to us at our first Scale event in 2022, said, guys, if you ever think of doing an event in South Africa, we said, absolutely not. Let's just, can we just get one or two done first here? But we just kept on speaking every few months, and we kind of thought, we ran some numbers. He was telling us that there are, property managers there. So we thought, you know what, let's give it a go. And I wanted to go to Cape Town anyway, so I'd never been before. But it was, as Gianpaolo says, it was extraordinary. And now they're creating a new association off the back of this event that happened. We had about 170, 180 attendees there. Dubai, again, was kind of brought to our attention by someone else. And we went there last year and kind of saw, wow, this is a real, there's a booming market emerging here. But it's not necessarily our intention to bring these events everywhere. It's just that, some associations or some large property managers say to us, hey, would you consider? Now, there are a lot of countries we have been asked about. We say absolutely not, because it's not in our bandwidth at all. We've been asked about New Zealand over the last couple of days. Like, oh, my goodness, literally couldn't get further away in the world. So there's only so many countries that we've got the logistical skills to do this in, but we're open to it. And, US is certainly on our radar if we can fit it into a very saturated calendar. The cultural difference is amazing, but it's really exciting as well when you're there to see these property managers who they're alive and they're sponges, absolute, like a host might be for the first time when they go to any event. So, Cristiana, so we haven't let you speak at all.
Right, I was just going a little bit deep in why this year we decided to get 50% of English speaker, which is quite new for Scale Italia. Just because this year, especially this year, with a lot of restriction, as it was mentioning before Damian, we had a lot of requests from property manager abroad, even from the United States. They want to step in Europe. They want to expand in Europe. And the first country they always request is Italy, and then France, of course. One of the reasons, so it's really nice for them to come over Europe, and especially in Italy, and see how the temperature is, and vice versa. Imagine that in Italy we have 9 million empty second homes, so it's the biggest market with incredible potential that you can find. And at the same time, we start to get owners like 30%. On 2023, 30% of the house were bought from foreigners in Italy. So you really need property management, and you have an incredible potential that is growing, is growing, is growing. We have only 600,000 homes in vacation rental. So imagine 9 million available still. That's why we want foreigners coming, and we have softwares, foreign softwares, Italian softwares as well. So we have Italian companies right now that they are looking to expand Assure, and foreigners company that they want to expand in Italy. So before that, Damian was mentioning a small conference. I was like, not really small. But in Italy, it's a special market. So imagine that we have 230,000 property manager, and it's full. Like last year, there was like every month I could go to 2-3 small conference in Italy, different level, almost the same speakers. So we want to take something new, something completely different, something not yet done for the Italian market. Gianpaolo, do you want to add something?
Yes, as Christina said, there are international markets in Europe, but consider US is crazy big market, but different countries within the big one, no? But more or less you have variety because there are speakers from all over. In Europe is different because you have like Spain, France, Italy, and each country has different characteristics, different speakers, different events. And when you approach speakers, more or less, as Christiana said, speakers is always the same one because, Spanish people used to learn from Spanish speakers, Italian the same, French the same, and Germans possibly the same. So, it's really hard to provide education in English in a markets like France, Italy, Spain, because they are not used to that. So introducing new speakers in a countries like this is becoming difficult. So we successfully did it in Spain, and we were really surprised about the outcome. So people say, oh, wow, this was really eye-opener. Because, many times when you bring external speakers that are not from, let's say, Spain or Italy or France, they are bringing different experience, the different way of managing properties, different way of thinking. This is the basics, And this is a cultural shock. You are used to work out your way with your tools, within your network, and all of a sudden you have someone coming from abroad bringing you a completely different, disruptive way to do property management and say, oh, wow, this is crazy. I want to try this. Many times it's like cultural resistance, you say whatever is outside my country, it doesn't bother me. So I'm not interested in learning from other people. And what Scale is trying is bringing sort of, the mix of experiences. So, well, now we have people from France trying to bring their experience to Italy or to Spain. The other way around, people from Italy sharing their experience to Dubai or to Spain. And results are crazy because, people say, oh, I had a chat with this guy from Italy and they are doing this like this. And to me, it's really different and what I want to try. So that you're seeing people that they used to do their thing in their own way, trying to understand other people from abroad, what they're doing is, wow, it's eye-openers many times.
Yeah, that's actually what I always found, when you go abroad in conferences. And that's actually how I learned from Scale. My first conference was Scale International, was in Barcelona. And I remember I was learning from all these speakers coming from all over the countries, and not only Europe, actually. There was as well one American. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, So I came back and I actually put in practice something that they were doing for the companies. It was some sort of fresh air that we all need to go forward with our businesses.
I love that. We'll be back in just a minute after a word from our premier brand sponsor, HostAway.
My name is Nate Klatt, and I am a co-founder of Home Hop Property Management. We currently have 55 units based in Cleveland, Ohio, and we've been in business for the last 3 years. So my partner and I originally were using a different property management software, and as we started to take on more clients, the scalability really broke. We weren't able to generate owner statements automatically. The listings didn't sync up properly. We started doing more research. We found HostAway and have been extremely satisfied with HostAway. Everything syncs properly. We're able to quickly give owner statements. Owners have the ability to see the calendar. Really just to streamline our processes and probably saved our team 50% of the workload that we saw with our previous property management software. One of the cool things about HostAway is that they're always adding new features. So one of the features they recently released is an AI feature that allows HostAway to automatically create the listing descriptions, to create photo descriptions, etc., in order to optimize your listing. One of the other big deciding factors for us, along with the great features, was the ability to really have a reasonably priced package. So HostAway worked with us based on our listing count and ultimately ended up being about half the cost of some of the other providers out there while still providing all the great features, which was a major selling point for us. The customer support has been fantastic. If we have any kind of issues, they're always quick to respond, usually within an hour. The follow-ups are always great, and again, the piece that I like the most is they're always rolling out new features, which has been a blessing. Anyone that's looking to scale and grow a business, I highly recommend looking at HostAway. And again, this goes back to what is your goal? If your goal is to grow this business, HostAway can scale with you. If your goal is to have 3 to 5 units, might not be as necessary. But again, if your goal is to scale, you really need to find a software that's going to scale with you, which HostAway does.
Ready to go pro? Learn why thousands of property managers are using HostAway to take their vacational business to the next level. Visit get.hostaway.com/Alex and Annie and get started today. There's so much that we can all learn from each other. And I think Annie and I are certainly going to be over there. We'll be like sponges just to compare and contrast how things are different or maybe similar to how companies operate, in our neck of the woods. But I'm curious, what are the hot topics over there? Like, what are the things that people are most interested in hearing about? Because at our conferences, you kind of hear a lot of the same topics, a lot of homeowner acquisition, getting new properties on programs, regulations are talked about quite a bit, book direct strategies, how to make tech decisions. Like, is it similar, or are there other things that we should be preparing for that they talk about that is just very different?
I'll pass over to Cristiana in 1 second because she knows much more, being the host of this event. We do try to ask all of our registered attendees what they want to hear about as well. So we do try to curate content specifically about what they want. But we do find that quite often each event, it's kind of the same information that they do ask for. Direct bookings is always high in the interest. Mergers and acquisitions.
Technology, AI recently.
AI, of course, recently.
Investment forum, actually. The investment forum is actually the news. Damian and Gianpaolo, they are going to try it on Dubai the week before Scale Italia. And we will do in Scale Italia because as well we have a lot of property managers that they're going on medium rental term. They're buying actually buildings and doing sort of long-term rental mixed up with vacation rental, to improve the occupancy as well. And we have a real estate group that are stepping in vacation rental world. So it will be quite interesting workshop, I think, on the 30th.
With the book direct side too, that's interesting to me that I feel like, short-term rentals is certainly nothing new for property management companies in Europe. And I think a lot of them have been around much longer than ones in the States are. But a lot of companies that were pre-Airbnb, at least on our side of the world, whether they had a great book direct strategy or not, they had been getting business on their own before these channels came out. But is it a mix of companies that are older and they are more modern at their book direct strategies, or is it a lot that are newer that they did just come out within the Airbnb era and they're trying to differentiate?
In my capacity as the Book Direct Show founder, every year we have a total array of attendees. So if somebody who's got even one property, which always astounds me that people, they're typically the ones who could just list something on Airbnb and be happy with their lot. But from one through to thousands, the book direct element is of interest to so many different people. It's for varying reasons, but I think more and more people are aware of, bringing that level of control back into their own business, just reducing that reliance upon OTAs, not putting them out at all, because it's a tough, kind of unsustainable way of moving things forward, but just diversifying their channel management and being able to bring in some bookings themselves, being able to look at repeat bookings and having the data to work with themselves is hugely important. So in answer to your question, Alex, I think there's a variety of hosts, property managers, regardless of units, that are interested in the book direct side of things.
So I'll be safe to do a session on diversification of distribution. Nobody's going to throw tomatoes at me and boo me out of the room, right? I'll be safe.
I think you'll be safe.
Okay. I had a question related to, so again, you're in all these markets, and one of the things that we talk about a lot in the US, and Gianpaolo, you mentioned the regulations in Barcelona. So that's been like front and center with everybody now, because it wasn't like, hey, we're going to put some regulations in that are going to restrict. It was, we're doing away with all of it. And so just out of curiosity, is there through Scale a advocacy program or anything that you're doing within each of the countries to help sort of educate people on what regulatory looks like, but then help them combat regulations as they come into play?
This is something recent, actually. This is a side project we have in place. Possibly is going to see the light in 25. We want to be on top of regulation in Europe, and, European Union, you have sort of, they are trying to sort of align all the regulation in vacation rental, and it's something that is really tough because, 27 countries is really hard to align all of them, because we have northern people, country in the north, they think completely different than the countries in the south. So this is really hard to align all of them. But we want to have a sort of conference about regulation in Brussels. This is a totally spoiler, no? We are not announcing this yet, but it's going to be a sort of event where we're going to invite all the main associations in Europe that are working behind the scenes to align regulation in vacation rental, and we want to be there to support them. So together with the community, the Scale community is something that we recently launched, is a couple of weeks ago, and it's a place where we're giving space to all the main European associations to provide support to, local property managers and also to other associations, because it's really important to unite and sort of exchange information on regulation and, be on top of all the things that are going on locally and in Europe. So this is the two main actions we are taking over the regulation in Europe.
We must think as well that this year we're going to bring the Italian conference in a city. They just announced but the new mayor of Florence just declared that he was absolutely supporting the mayor of Barcelona. So, it's in forbidding the vacation rental. So it was like, right, okay, great. We are going to have the Scale rental show there, which is great. But I think it will be already a strong messages, especially because we're going to bring on stage for not only association, like I'm part of one of the association as well. So there are two, basically AMBA and AIGA. We're going to bring as well institutions that they are really happy to have vacation rental, and they got really interesting data that they will actually tell us on stage about what vacation rental does for the local economy. So I think the message will be really strong in Florence as well.
It's a tough one in Europe, as Gianpaolo said, with all these countries all working in different ways, and even within those countries having different regulations for different cities. It's nigh on impossible for us to get involved in advocacy, but if we can facilitate it in some way, be it a conference next year in Brussels or through our online community, we will continue to do so. We have really close relationships with the associations throughout Europe and the European Holiday Home Association. So I think we'll do what we can.
Just to add something that is curious and possibly is fun, we find sometimes that, there are associations within the same country that they are in competition one with the other. We try to give visibility and give voice to all the people that's really passionate about vacation rental and want to, help this industry to grow and to become sustainable at some point. And we're finding that sometimes we are giving visibility to some association and in other conferences some others, and we feel that at some point they are sort of saying competition is good, but sometimes they don't understand that we are not giving priority to one or the other. We are just in the middle. We want to give visibility and voice to all the association involving in vacation rental. So this is a strong message that we want to share. Say there's no one big one that need to lead the others. The vacation rental industry need to unite, especially now that we are facing restriction coming from above. So association, instead of fighting one with the other, should unite and work with us to make this positive and sustainable. So the message we have to share with property managers that in the end are the body of the industry need to understand that we are working together to support them, to protect them, and to educate them. So this is the most important and is the big value that Scale brand and Scale family is trying to bring forward.
Yeah, that's a major impact and something that's so important because if it's happening in a neighboring country, even if these people might be happy about it, that means that they have less competition. It can happen to you too. I mean, that's the moral end of the story is, I mean, if it's happening somewhere else, then it's just a matter of time before you're going to face the same situation. So it's better to band together. I mean, obviously, having more people that are fighting for a cause is going to be more effective no matter what. So that's great to see that you guys are shepherding the cause and hopefully getting people to understand that it's better to work together on something like this.
On that, Alex, we had our Scale South Africa event a few months back, and the biggest takeaway that everybody said in their testimonial videos afterwards, regulation is coming. There's no hint of regulation in South Africa at the moment, but several speakers from overseas came and said, it is coming, it will come. You need to prepare yourself for this one day. If it's in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it is coming. Be prepared. A lot of people took a lot from that.
We were chatting before the show started that we shared we had two ladies from an organization called Roar on the show yesterday, and they're in New York City. And it's happened in New York City, and it can happen in any city, and it can happen in any country. So it's definitely better to understand. Let's get ahead of that before those regulations come down. And I know just even being in the Myrtle Beach market and even where Annie is, Panama City Beach, we're very destination tourist driven economies that no one could ever imagine short-term rentals being banned in one of these communities, but it can happen. It can definitely happen. I mean, it's a scary thing, but the more that you can plan ahead and get people educated and having a seat at the table, that's the best way to do it. But I'm curious too, do you ever invite or have you had any city or country or state politicians or any of the legislators, did they ever attend your events?
No, not really. We really don't want to get too political with our events and having people on sides. No, we try to kind of steer clear of that. That's not to say it won't happen in the future. But no, up to this point, not really.
Yeah. And we've talked about that in the US about, maybe that does make sense to invite either different associations that are outside of vacation rentals, but that are, working with these legislators to get them to really understand what it is we do as an industry and just understand how the professionals operate, that there's so much technology that has come about to make these communities still be able to operate just the same, and that short-term rentals don't need to be a nuisance, and in most cases they aren't a nuisance. But I can't say that that's happened at any of the conferences on the state side, but it is definitely something people have kind of talked about. But I think, Damian, to your point, it could be a little dangerous. They might have to have some security at the events.
We did actually have, we invited Gianpaolo, can you remember the position of the guy in South Africa? It was the Western Cape
Prime Minister of Tourism, something like that.
He pulled out a few weeks before, and then we had a new person in, and then they pulled out just a week before, and we kind of thought, well, maybe this is telling us something about politicians.
Yeah, I was recently at the Skift short-term rental event in New York City a couple of weeks ago, and they had a session that was a gentleman who has been in advocacy, he's an attorney, he's been very close to a lot of regulatory in the U.S., but then they had the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. And he talked about common sense regulation and how it was really important to be involved in the community from his perspective to make sure that they were hearing all the voices. And so I think that, there's people that are trying to do it. And the problem is people are nervous about bringing politicians in because it's like, are they bought and sold by somebody who might have a contrary opinion of what's going on? And so I would imagine that as we move forward, there's going to be more thought about bringing those people into the fold, but being very thoughtful about how to bring them into the fold because it is such a touchy subject.
Can I just say that for Italy, we try to be over parties, but we invited institutions. So we got a lot of no, of course, people that they don't want vacation rental, they want to get involved, but quite few yes. So we're not coming out with names and nothing because we want this to be a sort of surprise. We don't want too much noise, but there will be actually politicians in that panels. The moderator that we found for that panel is really over parties and we'll just stick on that as just, like for instance, we have, it was today news that we have in Italy what's coming from vacation rental. So outside the rental is 55 billion euro. We're not talking about nothing. I mean, we generate a lot of money from shops, from restaurants, analyzing few markets. So we analyze few markets, we got all these data, and that's what actually we're going to brought and comment on stage.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about the other side of the conference. I mean, what sort of things are done in the evenings? Are there receptions, or what does the networking
What do
environment
we need
look
to
like?
pack for nighttime?
Good shoes, girl. I can just say good shoes because we are in this historical city center. So normally, I mean, this is up to Gianpaolo and Damian, but you can join our family to go for beautiful and nice dinner and have a few drink with us. Why not?
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds great.
We very often have sponsors who do after event parties and drinks. So we'll liaise with them over the coming months. So chances are there'll be one or two events going on, kind of official after party events with them. But yeah, you are most welcome to come out with the team. And
Excellent.
I'll be led around beautiful Florence as well. It's I don't know if you've been before, guys, but it's one of the most stunning cities in Europe. Even.
We've never even been to Europe, so
Yeah.
this will be
Well,
our first time.
Yeah. So I had the chance. I just started working for NextPax, who's a very large channel manager in Europe, and I was able to go to the Netherlands back in April. So that was actually my first trip to Europe. So I got broken in on the long flight. So I'm a little more prepared than Alex. But yeah, we're super excited and really looking forward to meeting people in Italy and Europe and engaging with this business that is so global in nature. We just sometimes take it for granted that we're in our day to day and it's just in our world, but we do have a lot of similarities and learnings to share. So excited to be able to present our findings and learnings from over here in America. But what should we, from Alex and our perspective, what else should we be prepared for when we come to Italy?
But nothing is a normal country,
Yeah?
actually. It's
Okay.
nothing special.
So
I
comfortable
will teach you some
shoes.
words to go through the normal life. So bad words and nice words, of course.
Yep.
You will be set up your table in exhibitor areas. So you're going around. Of course, all the people are excited about this, that you're going around, that you can interview them. And I remember when we announced on Scale Italia on LinkedIn that Alex and Annie were coming, I received quite a lot of messages actually during the night saying, really? Are you joking? So I was
Oh
like,
my
yeah,
gosh.
so we have people coming. Actually, I had one good friend is actually a best property manager in Croatia. And she was like, right, so I will do 7 hours driving, even a little bit more, to be honest, but I have to come too. So
Oh my gosh, that's
you
great.
have
Well,
few funds in Italy. That's what you can wait for.
well, we will be prepared to meet everybody and chat and get some great interviews. I'm sure we're going to get some amazing content and learn so much there. But we're super excited. And again, just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the invite. And it's going to be a great experience for us and just excited to be part of it. But in the meantime, we've got a few months until then. But if anybody wants to reach out to all of you and learn more about Scale and your events and community, what's the best way for them to get more information?
We've got various ways. We're all very active on LinkedIn. That's kind of almost like our second homes. But we have the website scalerentals.show or our community, which is community.scalerentals.show. And that's pretty much where we're at 24 hours a day.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And thank you all again for joining us today. And we will see you in Florence in October.